Putting the brakes on congestion here in the city. Mayor Olivia Chow announces the city will expand the traffic agent program.
Good afternoon. The city's mayor announced today a new step to help tackle gridlock.
Chow's promising to provide more funding to increase the number of city traffic wardens to 100. CTV's Natalie Johnson is live with the details from today's announcement. Natalie.
Hi, Nathan. This is a preview of one of the new additions to the 2025 city budget, the full details of which will be revealed on Monday. The mayor announcing here this morning an additional $3 million in investment to hire 100 new traffic agents in the city. These are the people who direct traffic at very busy intersections, especially those which are prone to cars blocking the box and surge crowding. Typically, most of these problem intersections are in the downtown core, though there are some problem spots outside the core as well. For example, areas where there are heavy construction, for example, affecting the flow of traffic. Here is more from the mayor this morning.
These traffic agents will be moving traffic, getting Toronto moving, giving us time back with our families and loved ones. They even keep us safe as they clear the road for emergency crew. Traffic agents are heroes.
Let's be clear, this is a Band-Aid solution for bigger problems, which, is still a lack of coordination of the construction projects here in Toronto, and the fact that we have road occupancy permits that are issued for way too long, too much storage of construction equipment on the road. So until the mayor wraps her arms around those major issues, this is just a Band-Aid for a much bigger issue.
I think that it's really an important component of traffic management. We've found through all the work we've done on the congestion management plan, which I've talked to you all about many times, that there's lots of ways to manage congestion. The automation is important, but boots on the ground is critical for dealing with the complex dynamic at an intersection where you've got lots of people trying to get through on cars, lots of people crossing. You've got transit that we really need to get through because it moves so many people, as well as cyclists. So I think the boots on the ground is a great investment.
And the mayor points to the fact that there was a 96% increase to throughput of traffic at King and Spadina and King and University once those traffic agents were deployed there. About half of the 100 new agents are in training right now and will be deployed in the spring. Reporting live downtown, I'm Natalie Johnson. Back inside to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Still ahead on CTV News at noon, it's a critical day in the battle against a series of wildfires in the Los Angeles area. Fire crews hope to make progress in reining in these raging fires. We'll have the details coming up a little later in the newscast.
A pedestrian has died after being struck by a vehicle on the 401 off-ramp at Keele. Police say a man in his 30s was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries and later died. The vehicle remained at the scene. The investigation is ongoing.
A teenager has been charged after a vehicle the premier was riding in was involved in a crash on the 401 in Pickering yesterday. The OPP say this vehicle carrying the premier and his staff was involved in a collision in the westbound lanes near Brock Road. No one in the premier's vehicle was injured, while two people in the other vehicle were taken to hospital with minor injuries.
We were leaving OPG, driving down the road on the highway, and next thing you know, out of nowhere, a car got sideswiped, and that's all I can say. I'd have to refer this over to the OPP, but we were just driving straight. Next thing you know, you got hammered.
An 18-year-old has been charged with dangerous driving in connection with the crash. They're scheduled to make a court appearance in Oshawa February 20th.
A tow truck driver is in hospital after a shooting in Scarborough. The driver was found with gunshot wounds near Markham and Finch around 10:30 last night. Video from the scene shows a tow truck yard in the back of the complex, which is where the victim was found in his truck. Police were also seen investigating nearby at Markham and Shepherd. That's where a number of evidence markers could be seen on the ground. Police have not released any suspect information. The victim, a man in his 20s, was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Well, it's another frigid day with a biting wind chill in the city.
When temperatures turn this bitter, preparing for the cold is important before you step out that door. CTV's Beth McTennell is live downtown with how people are trying to stay warm. Are you staying warm, Beth?
I am, Michelle. I am. It is another frosty day in the city, and people are doing the best they can to stay warm. In fact, firefighters were called to a building on Church near Adelaide around 5:15 this morning because of a large dumpster fire. You can see the fire appears to have caused some damage to the back of the high-rise. Crews say everyone was evacuated out of the building, and buses were called in to keep everyone warm while they were forced out into the cold. Meanwhile, some of the unhoused here in Toronto are going to warming centers for a break from the bitter temperatures. One man told me the cold has been terrible to deal with this week. Others out and about are also doing the best they can to stay warm.
I'm freezing. I actually don't know what to make of it because I'm not used to being so cold, and I'm staying in to stay warm. That's it.
I'm wearing the scarf, that's how I'm staying warm. But it's so cold, I hate it.
Holding my warm cup of coffee to stay warm. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just keeping my hands in my pockets and walking fast.
I know there are some out there enjoying this cold weather, whether going for a skate or out for a walk, but many are hoping from relief from these temperatures. Reporting live downtown, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Hopefully soon. We got more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. We're still in the middle of a cold snap, well below seasonal, so bundle up with the heavy coat, hat, and gloves if you're outdoors today. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions, and who knows all about this more so than you?
I'll take it from here, Nathan. Yes, we are looking at some improvements as early as this afternoon, but you're right. We are not out of the woods just yet. It was a bitterly cold start to the day today, and still wind chills are making it feel like the minus teens in and around the GTA, still feeling like minus 20 in the Barrie area. Lots of sunshine out there. We will take that. We're currently at minus 6 degrees at Pearson Airport. That was the warmest we got at any point in the day yesterday, and we're hoping to make it to an afternoon high of minus 4. One step at a time. Will be a little bit warmer in the coming days, too. Winds are easing. They continue to come out of the northwest, but we're seeing this lake effect snow taper off. Finally, it's been a number of days, hasn't it? We have a little bit of snow in our forecast for the GTA. This is more widespread, and it's going to impact your Friday evening commute, perhaps, and then overnight into Saturday. We'll show you how much snow is in the forecast coming up. For now, Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. The Toronto District School Board is warning parents and guardians student information may have been exposed in a cybersecurity incident.
The TDSB is just one of multiple school boards affected, working to figure out just what information was accessed. CTV's Mike Walker is live with more details. Mike.
Nathan, Michelle, this cyber incident happened during the break in late December and involves the Power School application, which stores information about students. It's used by school boards right across the GTA and North America for that fact, and we're just learning that a compromised credential is to blame. Now, the Power School software is used to store a wide range of student information as well as limited staff information, and it really varies between boards. For example, the Durham District School Board notes it can be used to view your child's homeroom assignments, attendance history and grades, plus school cash and messenger accounts can also be set up. Power School has just provided new information to technical contacts for school boards, and it told system administrators that sensitive and personal data were affected. That may include social insurance numbers, a date of birth, or medical information. But it notes not all fields would be populated for all students. And while school boards may use the platform, not all boards are affected. Now, Power School is blaming this on a compromised username and password for the incident and says it believes it was found by the attacker on the dark web. Here's more from a cybersecurity expert on the significance of this, as well as concerned parents.
The implication here is that there's just such a growing volume of data on students, on children, on families, year over year, that the longer criminals wait to hack these organizations, the more juicy data they get and the more harm they can cause with the information that they steal. There is no excuse for any system to be storing sensitive information in 2025 and still use single factor, in other words, password-based authentication.
Yeah. Now, for its part, the TDSB says it's been notified that information that may have been accessed has been deleted and not posted online, but it's still working to confirm with Power School and its own IT department exactly what information may have been accessed. In the meantime, the board says it has notified Ontario's Information and Privacy Commissioner about this. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Federal Liberals are figuring out next steps after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced plans to resign.
The party is now figuring out the rules for its looming leadership conference as potential candidates weigh their options.
Over the past few days, I've received a lot of support from across the country. And of course, I've met with my team many times, my core team. And I've been reflecting.
I have had a number of colleagues that have approached me to encourage me to consider it. I certainly have been considering it.
For his part, Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc said he's not going to run for the leadership. Chrystia Freeland didn't answer questions on her plans. The leadership race triggered by Justin Trudeau's departure will have to be a shortened one, and there are concerns over safeguarding it from foreign interference.
To vote in a Canadian general election, you need three things. You need to be a Canadian citizen, you need to be 18 years old, and you need to be on the electoral list. If the Liberals fall anywhere short of those three criteria, especially with the threat of foreign interference that we've talked about now for a couple of years, I think that they'd be doing themselves a grave disservice, but they'd be doing a grave disservice for the country as a whole.
Current Liberal rules would allow non-citizens to vote in the leadership race. MPs say they brought up the matter at the caucus meeting. A Liberal spokesperson says meetings about the leadership race are ongoing.
An American man convicted of taking part in the January 6th Capitol riots 4 years ago has been arrested in BC. Anthony Vovo was taken into custody on Monday in Whistler. Vo came to Canada seeking asylum, claiming he was fleeing persecution by the Biden administration. The Canadian Border Services Agency says there is no record of Vo entering the country, and he was arrested as a fugitive from the U.S. Vo was facing a 9-month sentence in the U.S. And a sentencing hearing begins today for 3 men convicted of helping coordinate a blockade at the Coutts border between Alberta and the U.S. The blockade tied up cross-border traffic for nearly 2 weeks in early 2022 in protest of COVID-19 rules. The Crown argued the 3 men became the faces of the blockade and spoke on behalf of protesters. They were each found guilty in April of mischief over $5,000.
Now to the comments being made by the U.S. president-elect about American takeovers of Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal.
As CTV's Heather Wright reports, Canada is not the only country taking a stand against Trump's tirades.
Once unbelievable, the comments have become unsettling. Take over Greenland, seize the Panama Canal, erase the Canada-U.S. border. Threats that have world leaders wondering how best to respond to the U.S. president-elect. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed surprise at Donald Trump's comments, saying every country must respect international borders, whether they are a small or powerful nation. While Mexico's president suggested renaming the United States. América Mexicana. A response to Donald Trump's stated desire to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
With Trump, it's always difficult to separate the rhetoric, the bombast.
Ontario's premier walked a political tightrope, saying he wants to stop wasting time on, quote, ridiculous ideas about merging, while urging collaboration on a new trade deal.
We could be the most, richest, wealthiest, prosperous, safest jurisdiction anywhere in the world if we work together.
While some have dismissed Trump's comments as unrealistic musings or negotiating tactics, they have thrown even more uncertainty into global politics, providing an early test of how to handle the second Trump term.
Don't get into a situation where you're escalating the rhetoric because you don't want to taunt the schoolyard bully.
Heather Wright, CTV News.
And we want Canada to be a true north that is as strong and as free as it can be in every way that matters.
And that's the voice of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper in a Conservative Party video from 13 years ago. He shared it on X, responding to suggestions that Canada become the 51st U.S. state. Repeating his words, Canada is and always has been our country. He concluded, true when I said it, true today.
Overseas, a funeral was held in Israel today for a member of the country's Bedouin minority kidnapped on October 7th and found dead in Gaza this week.
Allahu Akbar.
Meanwhile, U.S. and Arab mediators have made some progress in their efforts to reach a ceasefire and hostage exchange agreement in Gaza, but not enough to seal a deal, according to Palestinian sources. The two sides have been at an impasse over two main issues. Hamas says it will only free the remaining hostages if Israel agrees to end the war and withdraw all troops from Gaza, where deadly airstrikes continue. Israel says it won't end the war until Hamas is dismantled and all hostages are free.
Joseph Aoun.
Lebanon's parliament voted to elect the country's army commander as head of state, filling a more than two-year presidential vacuum. Today's vote comes weeks after a tenuous ceasefire agreement stopped a 14-month conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, and at a time when Lebanon's leaders are seeking international assistance for reconstruction. New President Joseph Aoun is widely seen as the preferred choice of the U.S. and Saudi Arabia.
Ferocious and fast-moving wildfires have killed at least 5 people in the Los Angeles area. More than 100,000 people are under mandatory evacuation and may be ordered out. This image gives you a sense of just how massive these fires are. That small dot, dwarfed by flames, is a helicopter dropping water on the Pacific Palisades fire. And that's just one of the 6 out-of-control wildfires burning in the Los Angeles area. California Governor Gavin Newsom says the scope of devastation is simply unbelievable.
I've been in a lot of these fires, a lot, going back to Paradise, and this approximates Paradise. It's not a numeric, it's just a feeling, sense of loss, place, belonging.
U.S. President Joe Biden has approved a disaster declaration. Firefighters from across the U.S. and Canada are battling the fires, many of which are entirely uncontained.
And Scott Hurst is following the fierce wildfires, which are being fueled by powerful Santa Ana winds. He joins us now live with the latest. I know you've been following it closely. What is the situation today?
Michelle, good afternoon. A state of emergency remains in effect for Los Angeles City and County, and there are multiple fires that continue to burn in and around the Los Angeles area. And some of them right now still remain at 0% contained. And when we talk specifically about the Palisades fire, it is already being considered the most destructive fire in LA history. Now, amidst all this death and destruction, a sliver of good news, a glimmer of hope through all of the wildfires that are really causing a lot of devastation. According to local and county and state officials, it appears the wind gusts, the Santa Ana winds that have really whipped these flames, has reached its peak. And that has allowed fire crews to attack the fires from the air. Earlier in the week, water bombers and helicopters couldn't even get up to fight the fire from the air because of the intense and high winds. Also, extensive drought conditions have fanned these fires and allowed them to grow quickly. And so that is what fire crews have been dealing with. Hundreds of fire crews from the area and also throughout all the U.S. and Canada. We'll get into that in a minute. Here's more from LA County Supervisor Catherine Barger.
We are still facing significant threats. I am hopeful that the tide is turning. Thank you, Chief Maroney. Thank you, Chief Crowley. Yesterday afternoon, as the winds died down, we saw the return of aerial drops and aerial firefighting, a truly, truly welcome sight.
Michelle, what we can tell you at this time is that at least 5 people have been killed in connection to these fires. Thousands of homes and buildings have been destroyed. However, according to Governor Gavin Newsom, both those numbers are expected to swell in the days ahead. More than 130,000 people have been forced from their homes. Hundreds of thousands remain without power. And of course, because of all this, many schools across the region remain closed. So that is the reality that thousands, tens of thousands are dealing with right now in Southern California, in and around the Los Angeles area.
It is heartbreaking to see. The images are apocalyptic. And amid all the talk we've been having about Trump tariffs, proof that Canada and the U.S. are allies and friends, because as we do when our friends in the U.S. need it, Canada is providing support. Can you tell us more about how Canadians are helping?
Michelle, the two countries have a long history of sending emergency personnel when it comes to dealing with natural disasters. And right now we do know that there are aircraft in the air from Quebec and British Columbia. They include water bombers and helicopters. We're also learning that both Ontario and Alberta, we're hearing from both those premiers making posts on social media saying both those provinces are at the ready to provide as much personnel and equipment that is needed to help those in Los Angeles. We're also hearing from Prime Minister Trudeau as well as Minister of Emergency Preparedness Harjit Sajjan saying both he and Melanie Joly, Foreign Affairs Minister, have been in constant contact with their counterparts south of the border, officials with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, about the support that is needed. And so the federal government is ready to respond and is responding with resources to help those in LA, and also provinces are sending resources to help as well. So lots of help across the border for those who desperately need it in Los Angeles, Michelle.
CTV Scott Hurst live in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Michelle.
And firefighters in Toronto are responding to a fire behind a commercial complex in Scarborough. It broke out about an hour ago at 246 Raleigh Drive in the Kennedy and Danforth Road area. It's believed to involve an oil drum and a car at the back of the building. There was heavy black smoke, according to fire officials, but there are no reports of any injuries. In Washington, a somber state funeral for former President Jimmy Carter, America's 39th president. Carter died in December at the age of 100, the longest-lived former president in U.S. history. While he served only one term from 1977 to 1981, he became better known after he left the White House for his diplomatic and humanitarian work. Today, President Joe Biden paid tribute to his predecessor and longtime friend.
Throughout his life, he showed us what it means to be a practitioner of good works and a good and faithful servant of God and of the people. And today, many think he was from a bygone era. But in reality, he saw well into the future. A white Southern Baptist who led on civil rights. A decorated Navy veteran who brokered peace. A brilliant nuclear engineer who led on nuclear nonproliferation. A hardworking farmer who championed conservation and clean energy.
All living former presidents are in attendance, as well as dignitaries like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Carter will be laid to rest in his home state of Georgia.
Well, as Scott mentioned not long ago, the Santa Ana winds are now starting to ease over California. This is good news when it comes to those raging wildfires. Let me show you how the Santa Ana winds form. In the interior of California, they cascade over the mountains. They are very dry, very strong, often hurricane strength, and then they make their way toward the coast and offshore. This is against the natural flow that normally moves in off the Pacific. And again, it has just allowed those flames to spread so rapidly. It is dry in California. There hasn't been measurable rain in a long time. We don't have rain in the forecast, but we do have some snow. And I'll show you when the next round of extreme cold is going to move in. That's coming up here on CTV News. Stay with us.
So we're not through with the intense cold just yet, but the warm-up that we've been talking about is coming, and it's going to feel so good.
Yeah, looking forward to it just in time for the weekend. Even the snow, thank goodness it's not going to be severe.
Yeah, I think many will accept this trade-off right now. We'll get rid of the extreme cold temporarily, and we'll take a little bit of snow. It's not going to be a lot of snow, just enough, maybe. Of course, it doesn't take a lot of snow here in the GTA to make a mess of roads, so we could be dealing with that a little bit for your Friday evening commute. But yes, much more comfortable as we make our way into the weekend, and then some Arctic air is going to return for the middle part of next week. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. It's been cold this week, but it's also been snowy in parts of Ontario. In fact, in just the right places, I would say. Lake effect snow once again making for some great ski conditions in parts of our province. This was Snow Valley yesterday. The sun was shining. The winds have eased compared to earlier this week. Flurries are still flying in some areas. So again, we're not out of the woods just yet. We're not in the clear, but it's winter, it's January, and many people are thriving in this type of weather and under these conditions. Let's talk temperatures. It remains cold, especially in northern parts of Ontario. But we're gradually seeing some improvements. We're already at -6 degrees here in Toronto. We're forecasting an afternoon high of -4. That's inching closer to our seasonal average of -2. Yes, there is still a bit of a wind chill, so dress accordingly. The cold spot of the province once again in the north. Yesterday, we only made it to -6. So with a few hours of daytime heating to go, I think we can look forward to it feeling just a little more comfortable out there later this afternoon. And then it will be cold again tonight. We're not escaping those cold nights quite yet. Factor in the winds, feeling into the -teens just about everywhere. Still feeling into the -20s in places like Peterborough and Orillia. Friday at a glance. Now, there's kind of two parts to your day tomorrow. We're going to start off with some sunshine. Afternoon high -2, so a nice seasonal day, but it's as we make our way into the late afternoon and more certainly into the evening that some snow is going to move in. None of that in the forecast for today. We've got mainly clear skies, The cloud cover has moved out, but we do have another disturbance that we're watching. And as opposed to lake effect snow, this one is a system, which means the snow is a little more widespread. So a couple of centimeters in the forecast. At this point, it's looking like anywhere from 2 to 5 centimeters here in Toronto, but you'll notice that a couple locations could climb a little bit higher than that. We're not looking at too much in the way of enhancement in other areas, but maybe another 10 centimeters for you in Goderich. I know it's been a very snowy couple of days along the Huron shores. Timing-wise, so there's the sunshine for your Friday morning. Cloud cover is then going to start to increase as the morning goes on. Some light snow could begin late afternoon or again, right around the dinner hour. It's going to continue light in nature, but again, expected to accumulate into the night. And by Saturday morning, the system is pretty much gone. We're going to hold on to, though, about a 40% chance of flurries through the day. Very quick look at your 7-day forecast. Temperature is 0 for your Saturday, -1 for Sunday, and then that cool down returns for the middle of next week. That's your look at the weather. Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay. As the California wildfires wreak havoc in the Los Angeles area, there are also some ongoing impacts on Hollywood. Voting opened yesterday for Oscar nominations. Members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences originally had until Sunday to submit their preferences, but an email sent to members now says the deadline will be extended 2 more days as a result of the wildfire emergency. The nominations will also be announced 2 days later than planned on January 29th. The 2025 ceremony is scheduled to take place in Los Angeles March 2nd, hosted by Conan O'Brien.
The Princess of Wales is celebrating her 43rd birthday today. The past year has been a challenging time for Princess Kate. She had abdominal surgery before being diagnosed with cancer and then faced chemotherapy treatment. She's expected to continue her gradual return to public duties this year. Prince William shared a message calling Kate the most incredible wife and mother, celebrating the strength she's shown over the last year as remarkable.
Going above and beyond for a friend. A woman is shedding light on what it's like to be an organ donor after donating her kidney to save her friend's life. That story after the break. Giving a life-saving gift. Recently, a woman came to the aid of her friend donating her kidney. CTV's Ashley Bacon shed some light on what it's like to make that decision.
We're going to do it on this date. It's real.
A gift you can't put a price tag on, a life-saving kidney transplant. When Stephanie Davidson learned her friend Tom Kret needed a new kidney, she picked up the phone and never looked back.
Well, if this is like really what needs to happen, then why wouldn't I try? Or like I can't just keep sitting and watching these updates and thinking like, oh boy, hopefully something works out. And it's like, well, like I can, like if I could do something.
Traveling from Lakehead University, where she was at school, Davidson underwent a number of checkups and tests.
So she traveled back and forth from Thunder Bay to Kitchener just to keep up with the appointments.
Then the moment Kret had been dreaming of.
She sent me a message said, hey, what are you doing May 22nd? And I replied, question mark, and she said, I've been approved.
Once we've determined that the donor is an acceptable donor, that their tissues match and that they are healthy, and once we determine that the recipient is healthy enough to receive a transplant, it can occur within several months.
In May 2024, Davidson donated one of her healthy kidneys to her friend, a decision made without hesitation.
I was discharged 2 days after the surgery and then drove home. I'm from Kitchener, so we drove home. It was kind of a lot of chair time, a lot of reading, sitting. I'm lucky enough that I have family to help me out, so they were really great.
Nearly a year later, with a clean bill of health.
You'd never know that I only had one kidney. They said, like, everything's above and beyond perfect.
For Kret, out with the old and in with the new, having his 2 unhealthy kidneys removed.
It really is life-changing. Everything changes, like my energy is much better. I'm feeling better.
After seeing a previous story on a local hockey coach in need of a kidney transplant, Davidson and Kret reached out to us, hoping to inspire viewers to come forward if they can and give someone a second chance at life by becoming a living donor. Ashley Bacon, CTV News, Kitchener.
A new report reveals an increasing number of overdose deaths in Ontario involve the use of more than one drug. The research shows the combination of opioids and stimulants are proving to be especially dangerous. From 2018 to 2022, monthly rates of overdose deaths involving one substance increased by 75%. Deaths involving 2 substances increased by 167%, while deaths involving 3 or more substances increased by 186%. The latest annual data available from the Office of the Chief Coroner shows more than 2,600 Ontarians died from opioids in 2023.
A Canadian warship is sailing into international intrigue off the shores of Taiwan. CTV's Adrian Gobriel's on board HMCS Ottawa and takes you on its vital mission on the high seas.
With a maple leaf adorned to its ironclad exterior, HMCS Ottawa is operating in an area that has become a flashpoint for geopolitical tensions with China. The frigate is part of Operation Horizon to encourage open passage through vital waterways for all ships in the Indo-Pacific. The Canadian warship and its crew of roughly 250 personnel are now traveling through the Luzon Strait, which separates the Philippines to the south and Taiwan to the north. At 175 kilometers in length, the nearby Taiwan Strait sees more than 20% of global maritime shipping pass through its waters each year. Canadians rely on the shipping corridor and Taiwan for its microchips and semiconductors, found in our phones, vehicles, and computers.
It's vital economic territories and trade routes, and that means that it's vital from a military standpoint.
An attempt to control the strait and surrounding seas by China is being seen by some as a strategic military maneuver that could leave Taiwan and other Western allies vulnerable. Enter the Canadian Air Force Cyclone, seen here making a precarious landing on the back of HMCS Ottawa. Each warship deployed by the Royal Canadian Navy to this region in recent months as part of Operation Horizon has been equipped with one of these helicopters. Why is the Cyclone so integral to HMCS Ottawa?
Extend the reach of the ship's sensors. So we have a radar on board, we have a dipping sonar on board, we have sonobuoys, we also have a electro-optic and infrared camera, various equipment that helps us find ships or find submarines much further out ahead of Ottawa than it could ever do.
The extended reconnaissance reach allows HMCS Ottawa to safely carry out its objective of promoting order along the Taiwan Strait, as well as across the East and South China Seas.
It's a benefit to Canadians that we're out here just trying to keep the world a little safer.
Adrian Gobriel, CTV News.
New travel rules are taking effect this year for passengers heading to Europe, including Canadian citizens. While Canadians are still exempt from visas, they'll have to do a bit more paperwork in advance of boarding. As of this week, Canadian citizens need an electronic travel authorization to travel to the United Kingdom. Passengers can apply online, and they are advised to do so before booking their flights. Europe's border-free travel zone has indicated it'll put a similar system in place sometime this year. Canada has its own system of electronic travel authorizations for visa-exempt visitors since 2016. And a new annual ranking shows Canada's passport is now tied for the 7th most powerful in the world, marking a drop of 3 places over the last decade. The Henley Passport Index defines power by the number of countries a holder can enter visa-free. Canadians can do so with 188 destinations. Singapore continues to hold the top rank with 195.
Still to come, the rise in weight loss drugs has one major investor rethinking his shares in booze. Details in the rest of your business headlines after the break.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Investors in booze stocks might want to look out for a threat from weight loss drugs.
Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the details in business.
Hello there, here are your business headlines. A star fund manager in Britain has sold out of Diageo, the owner of Guinness and Johnny Walker, partly because he fears that weight reduction drugs will cut demand for alcohol. The Telegraph newspaper says Terry Smith, founder of Fundsmith, told investors, quote, "Indeed, it seems likely the drugs will eventually be used to treat alcoholism. Some research indicates that GLP-1 drugs affect reward pathways in the brain and may induce people to cut drinking." Investors, meanwhile, are still betting against Britain. The pound fell to its lowest level against the US dollar in more than a year on concern the Labour government under Prime Minister Keir Starmer will struggle to keep the deficit in check as borrowing costs surge. The yield on 10-year government bonds this week hit the highest since 2008, a sign of investor jitters. And finally, Canadian officials are narrowing a list of American products to target if Ottawa must respond to tariffs introduced by President-elect Donald Trump. Sources say U.S. steel products and ceramics, including toilets and sinks, as well as Florida orange juice, are possibilities. Canada buys about $85 from the U.S. for every $100 it exports. But when you strip out oil and gas, the U.S. has a significant trade surplus with this country. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg.
A new report from the C.D. Howe Institute is calling for Ottawa to press pause on its plans for a capital gains tax rate increase. Parliament may be prorogued, but the federal government said this week the Canada Revenue Agency is going to move ahead with changes to the capital gains tax as proposed in the 2024 budget. The Finance Department says parliamentary convention means proposals like that are effective as soon as notice is tabled. C.D. Howe Senior Fellow Jack Min says there are concerns the tax change will affect more Canadians than Ottawa intends, and it should be scrapped in the face of political uncertainty.
All eyes will be on the U.S. Supreme Court tomorrow as it begins hearings on the fate of TikTok. The Chinese-owned social media company has asked the top court to halt the implementation of a law that would see it banned under national security concerns. TikTok says it will stop operations in the United States by January 19th, rather than agreeing to a sale to a U.S. company. Now, incoming U.S. President Donald Trump has asked the Supreme Court to implement a pause to the ban. He's pledging to find a political solution when he takes office later this month. Well, many people feel more comfortable buying brand new vehicles, but even if you do, they can still have problems right out of the factory.
That also includes new high-tech electric vehicles, which can occasionally have issues with their battery systems. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
Chevy came out with this 780-kilometer range truck. I thought, let's go, sign me up.
George Philatos of Toronto purchased a 2024 EV RST Chevy Silverado in November. The loaded vehicle was about $140,000. Philatos works in the green energy sector and felt it was time to purchase an all-electric pickup.
We're part of the electrification of vehicles, and we're trying to, get the folks not only to walk the walk, but talk the talk.
But after driving the truck for only 3,000 kilometers, there were battery error codes. He took it back to his dealer and its main battery was replaced, but it's still been in the shop for the past 2 months.
I don't have any meaningful information as to what's wrong with the truck, when I'm going to get it back, what happened to the battery in the first place.
Philoto says he's paying $2,000 a month for a truck he can't drive.
If I have a lemon, I just want a new truck. Give me another truck that works.
But as we recently reported, there is no lemon law in Ontario when buying a new vehicle. There is in the U.S., and one was recently introduced in Quebec. So if a new car has serious problems, the dealer must take it back.
They can fix it. They have to give you a new car, or they have to give you back your money.
After we reached out to General Motors, the truck battery was replaced again for about $30,000. It was done under warranty, and Philotos was also given $4,000 to cover his 2 monthly payments. A spokesperson for Chevrolet told us, GM remains committed to delivering quality service. We have confirmed repairs have been completed to the customer's satisfaction. Philotos now has his truck back with a new functioning battery and says it's a relief to get it back on the road.
I am so glad I contacted CTV, Pat Foran. Your team has been just so super, and thank you so much for helping me. I really do appreciate it.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
To sports, the Raptors were in New York last night facing the Knicks, who had lost 3 in a row.
Kicks it to Hart. Hart's open, and then Scotty closes the denial, the two-handed slam. How about that?
The Raps kept it close much of the night, but the Knicks pulled ahead in the fourth quarter, opening up a 26-point lead. New York wins the game 112-98. Emmanuel quickly led the Raptors with 22 points. Former Raptor OG Anunoby had 27 for the Knicks.
Boulan hands off to Ambrose, and they hit traffic right in front of the rebound. They score!
That was an amazing goal. The Toronto Raptors played Montreal and Vancouver last night as part of the PWHL's 9-city takeover tour. Marie-Philippe Poulin scored twice as Montreal downed the Raptors 4-2. Jesse Comfer and Daryl Watt scored for Toronto. The sold-out game was the second stop in the takeover tour, crisscrossing in North America to grow the league's audience and test potential expansion markets. Another destination on the tour is Edmonton, where Toronto will play Ottawa on February 16th.
Canada's first WNBA team has announced its first founding partner. The Toronto Tempo releasing this video unveiling Sephora Canada as the basketball franchise's founding partner and official beauty partner. Sephora's logo will adorn the Tempo jerseys when the team takes the court in 2026. And after the break, we go a few rounds with Canadian Hall of Fame boxer Troy Ross, how the former champ went from the boxing ring to the big screen. His incredible story coming up. Good job, Andrea.
Troy Ross comes from a family of champion boxers, so it's no surprise he became one too. Now the former Canadian title holder is one of the newest members of the Canadian Boxing Hall of Fame. CTV's Andrea Case went toe-to-toe with the champ.
Guyanese-Canadian boxer Troy the Boss Amos Ross never dreamed boxing in his family basement would lead to a role in an Oscar-winning film.
What are you doing? You beat this guy easy last time. Yeah, the same guy.
A few seconds in the ring with the former world title contender told me I don't have what it takes, but he does.
Now, after my career has been done for almost 12, I think pretty much 12 years, and now to be inducted into the Canadian Boxing Hall of Fame, it's still surreal. It still has not really sunk in yet.
Amos Ross was given that honor recently. He says as an amateur and a professional, boxing gave him a life he never imagined.
When I first had my first fight in Bramley Boxing Club, we were traveling around Ontario. Once I won the Canadian championships, I was traveling around the world.
He fell into the sport organically. The Guyanese native comes from a family of boxers. His father represented Guyana in the Olympics, and his family emigrated to Canada in 1982.
Was not expecting it at all. Came home one day from school, and my father took us down into the basement, and he had the basement set up as like a boxing gym. One of the things I like about boxing, it was the one thing I was good at. It was, I tried every sport. Basketball was too short. Soccer, too much running.
If you're thinking of getting into the ring yourself, Troy has this advice. He says it's not about learning how to take a punch, It's learning how to avoid the punch.
People always look at me and say, "Oh, it must hurt." Of course it hurts. I don't know which punch you have ever gotten that did not hurt, but it's how you receive the punches. Your defense, it has to be better than your offense. Everybody has an offense. Even the youngest kid, like a baby, has an offense, but do they have a defense?
If he looks fit, there's a reason. Today, he trains the next generation of boxers who one day may follow in his footsteps and also be inducted in the Canadian Boxing Hall of Fame. Andrea Case, CTV News.
And a shout out to Troy, who happens to be a friend of mine, and he never even mentioned he was being profiled by Andrea Case because he's so humble.
Can you
Anyway,
believe
shout
that?
out.
Oh, I'm going to be on the newscast.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything.
Didn't say a word.
Luckily, I got to meet him because you're friends, and the sweet. I mean, for a tough guy, it's so sweet.
Yes, it's an amazing story, and I'm very impressed by Andrea as well, as we were saying,
right?
too. Let's talk one more time about the weather. It's going to be another chilly night tonight. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, here's a look at what you can expect. Minus 11 degrees for the low, wind chill minus 14. Tomorrow, waking up, not quite as bitterly cold, but still cold. Bundle everyone up as they make their way off to school. A reminder that we have some snow in the forecast for your Friday night. We will take an updated look at the snowfall total forecast tonight on CTV News at 5 and 6. Nathan and Michelle.
Thanks, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.